Let's move on to the South region, Eric. Starting off with second-seeded Marquette, about a 6.5-point favorite against 11th-seeded NC State. Total of 150.5. I've been going back and forth about this game just because, at least in regards to the spread, my raw numbers make it around Marquette minus 4.5, minus 5. And we go back to Marquette, Colorado. We were talking about this mostly off air, and you touched on this at the top. Colorado, if they hit one of their two wide open threes down the stretch, Buffalo's probably advance. And if they hit their threes in the first half, they probably advance to the Sweet 16. Granted, NC State holding off Oakland on Saturday. Oakland could have put the game away in the final seconds with a couple possessions, but Wolfpack winning the game in overtime. The one thing I like with NC State offensively in this matchup, among a couple things, but the big thing for me is I think NC State will be able to handle the post traps that Marquette throws at them in order to generate some of those Shaka Havoc turnovers better than Colorado. If you go back to the Buffs matchup in the round of 32 against Marquette, Eddie Lampkin with 4 turnovers. DJ Burns, as big as he is and as much as we wanted to see Burns against Lampkin, Burns against Iguodaro and those traps down low, really good passing big man. And if Shaka Smart's going to do the same thing, I think Burns has success. Then you think about NC State's ball handlers. Between Morcell, Horn, and O'Connell, and even Burns, they could all handle that Shaka Smart havoc. Marquette ranks in the 19th percentile when it comes to field goal percentage allowed in the paint this season. So if Burns isn't turning the ball over, and if NC State is effectively attacking the paint, either in the mid-range or at the rim, they should have success. So with all those factors in mind, when you think about NC State having a little bit of an advantage offensively and maybe being able to keep pace with Marquette, handle the ball pressure, all those variables do play towards NC State. But what I am worried about is regression here for NC State. Over the last couple months, the Wolfpack are shooting 36.7% from behind the arc. If you go back to over the first 3 months of the season, Wolfpack shot 33.3% from deep. So if they don't hit their threes, could this be a blowout? My numbers say yes, even though they're slightly different from the point spread. That scares me off enough of NC State to, I think this number is right, kind of like my point about UNC and Alabama, but I do think Marquette advances.
Yeah, for me, I have Marquette by about 6 in this game. The over-under is going to be at about 149, it looks like. The one thing for me, and I've always had 2 concerns about Marquette. One of them is going to be the inside game. It's kind of the question I've always had for the last couple of years. It's always an issue under the Shaka Smart teams of you got guys on the inside who can actually get second chances for your team. That's not exactly a place that really Marquette does not excel there. They're 324th in potential points off second chances, 239th in second chance conversion percentage. Now, granted, that doesn't matter a lot of the time. They take a lot of threes. Their adjusted 3-point percentage is 11th in the country, so they're making those threes. So those second chance numbers are naturally going to come down a little bit. So that I understand. That could potentially be a problem when you're looking at a team like NC State. Now, NC State on the inside is not exactly elite. They're good. They're not elite. If you look at their second chance numbers, they're anywhere from 56th to 91st on both ends of the court. I have 2 metrics on both ends of the court. All 4 of them, they're between 56th and 91st. So good, but not elite, and that could be problematic. But what I like, what Marquette has going for them, and my big question I had going in the tournament was going to be the health of Tyler Kolek with the oblique injury. And I believe he's probably answered that question if you look at the stats in the first 2 rounds. He plays 38 minutes against Western Michigan, 18 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds. Against Colorado, he plays 40 minutes, 21 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds. I don't think there's anything wrong with Tyler Kolek. If I had known that Tyler Kolek was going to be 100% healthy, I probably would have had him getting to this point. I think that, again, the hill that Shaka Smart has had to climb has been getting out of those first 2 rounds. He's finally done that. Now he gets the advantage of playing against the weakest team, arguably, in all the Sweet 16. I think this really sets up really well for Marquette to possibly get to the Final Four. As I talked about, the South is potentially going to be a little bit of a dumpster fire. It has on the bottom half. But if they can come through here and they get the weakest team, that sets them up nicely to play a team like a Duke or a Houston who might beat each other's brains out in this other game. So that is, I would say, a real beacon for success for Marquette to possibly get not only past NC State, but also to the Final Four as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing with NC State. You mentioned Marquette's grind to an extent of the first couple games, and Kolek working his way through that oblique injury, or maybe shaking off everybody's negativity with the injury. But NC State playing Oakland and Texas Tech. Texas Tech, a middle of the pack Big 12 team, yes, physical conference, but nonetheless, Oakland from the Horizon League, pretty well set up, and a high variance team that got just that against Kentucky with one of the most unheralded performances that we typically see in March at times. So you think about the 5 straight wins in 5 days. Yes, one of those was without DJ Horn, but it came against Louisville in the ACC tournament. I think this is where the luck runs out. Now, I'm not saying go to your betting window and back Marquette. My numbers kind of side with NC State covering the point spread. Maybe it's a backdoor. Eric's to a slighter degree, a little bit of a lean towards the Wolfpack. But either way, we both are on or at least leaning towards the notion that Marquette moves on.